What up, what up, what up? It is another episode of the Shark Cove. Sorry about the little delay there. I had to have my mouse pad. I like to sync up the colors so like everything's working right and it wasn't lit up, and so I had to fix that. Cycle Through Blue was one of the last ones. Nevertheless, we are live and ready to go. We're back. It's no more two gamers, although one of those two gamers was very nice to me, one was not. I had some tilting experiences though. I deserved that bink. I deserved it to be a solo, quite frankly. I deserved to bink the next 5 slates, I think. So let's try and figure out how we're going to exactly get what we deserve today on what's kind of a sneaky slate. I think that there's 6 or 7 teams that are kind of sneaky on this, maybe 8. I don't know. Let's kind of dive right in. Let's take a look and see what we can do with this whatever this slate is. Here we are. Here it is in all its glory. So in no particular order whatsoever, we've got just a couple bangers here for a variety of different reasons. There's just this absolute level of uncertainty that goes with most of these games. Some of it is inherent just by the teams that are playing. Others are health and safety protocols. Others are, whether or not this team is what we've seen recently or what we've seen overall. And when it comes to that, when it comes to these projections, I don't know, man. This is probably one of the. I spelled his name wrong. That's okay. Why does that even ever get translated over? I don't understand. I did fix Lehens. I did fix that one, but nevertheless, let's hop right in. Up versus TT, a matchup again with two really bad teams. One that we don't think should be bad. I mean, every time I look at this, ultra prime team, and I look from top to bottom, and I look at the guys in these positions, they have at least 3 guys that are average or above average. I don't think Hacker's a terrible player. And, the top lane has been questionable, but obviously we've seen Elk perform well on good playoff caliber teams. This is not one of those, but his performance has still been admirable. TT, on the other hand, has picked off a couple wins here and there against some good teams, against some bad teams. But overall, we think that they're a pretty bad team. And this line, I don't know, just for me, really seems like I want to go towards Ultra Prime. I just don't think I'm getting a big enough number on TT. I do wonder, though, what the over-under is on this. I will tell you that in a lot of the Euro regional leagues recently, very much like the European main league, the LEC, we've been seeing almost nothing but overs. Nothing but overs. Now, is this because the games have less significance? Is this a shift in how teams are playing the meta? I'm not really sure. I would tell you that a lot of those games that we're seeing the overs, whether it's in the NLC, whether it's been in the Ultra League, whether it's been in the Super League, just all of the leagues as a whole, a lot of these games do still have significance. There's playoff seeding, just getting into the playoffs. All of these things have been on the line, and we've still been seeing 30-plus kills in games. This is particularly a series where that has a chance to happen. A big reason for that is we talk about time and time again when you have two teams of equal, ability. Sometimes you get these really, really crazy games. But in the case of like two teams that are very good, sometimes they don't take the chances, and you have to hope that they opt into fights and that the fights just go pretty evenly. On the other hand, when you have two teams that are bad, they're most definitely opting into the fight. That's part of the reason that they're bad is it doesn't matter whether it's an optimal fight or a suboptimal fight. They're probably opting in. It doesn't matter if it's a Herald, a Gromp, a blue buff, a red buff, whatever the case is. And, that's going to lead to either one team absolutely snowballing or a back and forth affair where you see like a 25-15 or something of that sort, which is kind of what I expect from this game. Ultra Prime has been a team that does very well in the early parts of the game. They're not terrible laners, but they just make a lot of mistakes around objectives. TT is a team that just makes a lot of mistakes, whether it be around an objective, whether it be laning. Initially this was a team that was very similar to the team last year, where they would get a very early advantage, but then blow that, whether it be at 7, 8, 9, 10, 15 minutes. I think this team has changed significantly when you have Chieftain and UCal, who are a little bit better than Frigid and Captain. Probably a lot better, but not necessarily to the quality of some of the teams that they've been playing. When it comes to up, I still think that they are a step below, but not as far as kind of the next match that we'll talk about. Nevertheless, when you're talking TT, one of the things that you have to consider all the time is that you have New up in that top lane. He hasn't been, as atrocious as he was earlier in the season, but he's still been fairly bad. And when we're looking at the over under on this, like 25.5, I don't care what, when it comes to these late games, when it comes to this, I'm all over it. Like I have this projected way higher than 25 in almost all scenarios. You can see, 20 to 9. I'm talking like 27, 28, 29. It's at 25.5. I'm going to slam that. I have no idea whether or not Gelati's on that. I think he tends to, go by the whole sphere of numbers. I'm taking a smaller sample. I'm taking the more recent games, and I'm adding in a little bit of bias. I am. I'm sorry, guys. It's bias season. We have to go with it. Whether I don't know if it's going to be Peter or Effort Raj. I have no idea. Look, it's pretty much the same thing to me, to be quite honest. Actually, if it's Effort, it probably drops that projection slightly, but I don't know. I have no idea. I think that's the earlier game, though. Let's take a look. Maybe I should have had these in order, huh? It's the earlier game. We'll know. So going into the next game, LGD versus RNG. I don't think that there's a significant amount of explanation that's needed here. RNG should crush this game. If LGD wins, I will be very happy. RNG will then have not hit their season total over. And that would be great. But look, I think RNG is in good form right now. I have a feeling that they have a good chance of actually going ahead and winning out, finishing 13-3, which would be a disaster. But nevertheless, this isn't one of those games that I think is a hiccup. LGD is a team that gives up a ton of kills. RNG is not necessarily a team that opts into getting a lot of kills, but they can, and they have been relatively bloody over the last couple of games. And so as a result, I think that they're a good play, but they're super expensive. We'll take a look at that in a second. The two LCK games, and we love LCK games here in the Shark Cove, and we continue to get people's poor opinions of it. I think some people are just trying to pollute the waters. That they want to play LCK, but they don't want you to play LCK. So they'll dog LCK and then they'll go put it in their lineup. I'm telling you, play the LCK. I've been telling you to play it since, I don't know, the turn of the year. Maybe it was February. I don't know. But there have been several weeks now that we have been saying, play the LCK. But today, it's like, who do you play? Why do you play them? When we're talking about Gen G, we don't know who's playing. And I guess we don't know who's going to play. There's varied reports and rumors that maybe Ruler's coming back, but Chovy isn't. How does that kind of affect the overall projection of the game? How do they perform against Damwon? Gen G came out and beat Guangdong. And look, they had some really weird drafts, but I just don't think that Damwon's the same team that's going to be thrown off by those type of things. And Damwon has been a team that's actually started to pick up their production in terms of fantasy points. And so maybe that's a place that you go. I think a 175 favorite if Chovy is out is an absolute bettable line. And that's why I'm kind of questioning whether or not the bookmakers, the odds, the lines, the people that do all that stuff, they know something we don't. I don't suspect that they do when it comes to this, but, they probably have somebody that can speak Korean and has been scouring the boards, the discords, just like our boy Spelkowski, but it doesn't look like we have any definitive news, and we may not. The next game is DRX, Nongshim. These are two teams for the longest time nobody wanted to. Why do I have? Oh, I have the wrong projection there. My bad, guys. I knew I put that in there wrong earlier. Hang on, let me go find that. Where is it? Looking at those names. Here it is. There it is. All right. Now these projections kind of look. I don't know. Look, when it comes to these two teams, I started looking at like kind of their historical numbers, what they've done, and the projections kind of look a little bit light, especially if you look at their more recent sample size, which we are. We're going to take a look. I've got a nice little bar graph and everything that we can take a look at. These two teams are ones that we didn't want to play. Maybe we did at the beginning of the year. A lot of people were high on this DRX lineup, and they were super boring for a while. They were bad. They were boring. Even when they went on their initial like win streak after Nathan anointed them a bad team, they weren't scoring a ton. But more recently, they've been putting up some wild fantasy numbers. Absolutely shattered the slate the other day with like a 29-point just absolute fiesta that was disgusting. Unless you were Cody or Nathan or just anybody that played DRX, except for Bellman. That was rough. It was rough for him, I think. But I didn't have a lot of DRX. I did. I had small stacks. I didn't have them in the 333. It was disgusting watching how much of a fiesta that first game came into. And it was weird because the second game was very mild, and as a result, they didn't absolutely break the slate, but they were still optimal. It's hard not to be optimal when one game is a 30-point game. But look, when it comes to these odds, like minus 240 versus plus 173, I think you probably take a shot at Nongshim, maybe even just like plus 1.5. I don't know what the odds on that are. I think it's something like minus 175 on Nongshim to take a game, and I think that's kind of an attractive spot. But the whole point is when we look at these teams and we look at how they've been performing in a smaller vacuum, let's say like the middle of February, they've been fiesta teams. And so let's go ahead and let's do that. Let's pull up the sports projections website here, and let's take a look at a couple of things when it comes to these teams. Give me a second. Let me make this big. Let me see how this looks. Okay, I think you guys can see it. If you can't, oh well, I don't know what else I can do for you there. So when we look at the beginning of this year, and we look at the teams and who are playing and who's scoring points and wins, you see Ultra Prime kind of stand out. LGD, obviously, in their small sample, stand out. And GenG, which we know was a relatively bloody team, stands out. Obviously, all of the ADCs stand out, but TT looks terrible. Teams that gave up a lot of points, LGD, Ultra Prime, DRX for that matter. Good. I'm glad you can see it. Good. But when we're talking like DRX, not necessarily. They don't look. The top lane's pretty similar. I'm sorry. This is what we're looking for. But they don't put up a lot of points up here. Damwon doesn't get a lot of points. Nongshim doesn't score a ton of points, not in comparisons to everybody else. So there was a real reason that you didn't want to go to them, especially if you even change this. And let's say, I don't know, let's put it for like the entire first month of the season. These numbers become even more drastic at that point. As you can see, DRX is just doing absolutely nothing. Beryl is in MSI form. Birdall and Hoya just doing some absolutely nasty stuff. And everybody else, outside of LGD, who always scores, that come through. It doesn't matter if it's Jay, Yeg, Eric, they score points. Ultra Prime, Elk, he scores points. But we've seen kind of a shift. We've seen several DRX banks. We've seen Nongshim banks. So what do these numbers look like when we change this date range? Let's take it to February 8th. Let's take it to today. And all of a sudden, you've got DRX right up here competing with everybody else. RNG obviously scoring a ton of points. Even Damwon starting to creep up. As you can see, a lot of these teams are completely viable. In terms of what they're giving up in those losses, DRX is giving up a ton of points to mid laners and ADCs. It's good for Ghost. It's good for BDD. I don't know if BDD's had really more than one or two good series so far this season, but that's definitely something I'm looking at. Obviously, LGD has been giving up a ton to mid laners, which correlates really well with Xiaohu and RNG. The other part, though, is kind of like Nongshim. Does Nongshim give up a lot of points if we're wanting to play one side of that Nongshim or DRX? And I think both of these teams score enough points that you can take a side of this. And I have a sneaky suspicion, and we can talk about this. We'll talk this through, that DRX is probably going to carry a little bit more ownership than they may have, I don't know, a month ago. Especially for people that check the box scores, which is essentially what I'm doing right now. But the team has kind of changed the way that they play. The other couple things that I like to look at with this, now that we have a large enough sample size on it, is just the teams that are playable if they lose. And while Damwon isn't this like wonderful scoring team here, if they do lose a game, a couple of these guys score all right. LGD scores great in losses. Nongshim scores pretty well in losses, as an average. So let's take a look. See if there's anything in the chat. Not so much. So those are kind of some thoughts right there. Let's take a look at kind of the projections, the optimizer. Let's see how that all works. All right, cool. Can't see this, though. I know that. Let's make this a little bigger. Is that too big? No, it looks good. It looks good. Let's do it. Okay, so when we're talking these cash teams, the biggest favorites on the board, who are the biggest favorites on the board again? The biggest favorites are DRX and RNG. Okay, let's take a look. What can we do with DRX and RNG? I think many of you already know there's not much you can do. Like, look, this is probably a pretty sharp cash line right here if you're going head to head. We're in support captain world. If you want just two teams, that's kind of what you need to do. I mean, even if you went with, like, let's say Damwon, let's assume that Ruler or Chovy are out or both of them are out, you can actually go with like a showmaker captain here. And I personally like this a lot better. You can't do anything with these two teams. They're a little bit too expensive. If you factor in up, though, what do we got here? You have a high-scoring captain lineup right there. And look, I mean, I don't know if I even have a problem with this lineup as a whole. You've got, the carries that you want. You got Elk, you got Xiaohu. Both of these guys are going to be the high scorers on their team. So, look, I don't hate that from a cash perspective. But are there things that we can do outside of going double LCK and cash to get some of this kind of higher equity on it? And I think that there is. Just randomly, what happens if... I don't know how I feel about that, to be quite honest. But let's stay with this for a second. So we're going to go captain. Let's just take a look at the top. I think you can go, let's see. Let's go Birdall. What can we do? Tell you what, let's try these three teams. Let's just try three of them. Let's see how that works. Doesn't get any better. Let's try these three teams. I mean, it gets better in terms of scoring, but I guess the thought process is this. Let's go ahead and let's go grab Damwon team. They're the cheapest of the favorites. When we're talking the carries, who's the cheapest of the carries? Man. mean, that's definitely. I don't think we're getting. Let's just say we're going with. Say we're going with Hacker. I mean, I don't love the Hacker play, but let's say we go with Hacker. We go with the top. We don't want Bin. I mean, Bin is a guy that's okay, but we're playing against new, so this is a good spot right here. Do something like this. Maybe throw him in there, and then grab ourselves Elk and get a support at 53. No, we can't. What a disaster. What a disaster. Let's see. If we go with him, that's what I just had, wasn't it? Yeah. Let's see. And then we go support. Yeah. I mean, I'm not digging these for cash. I think you're getting a little crazy. There are a couple things that you can do with like a team one-off, but I don't know. In a head-to-head, it doesn't seem like those are the things that you want to do and get kind of crazy with the lineups. But from a cash perspective, I guess the point I would make is either something like this feels pretty good, where we have the 531 score, or what was this? It's 472, significantly lower. It's significantly lower, but you do get a mid captain. Look, if you're playing heads up and you've been subscribing to the theory that we've had in terms of just getting the biggest favorites in there to be safe. What was this one at? 531 for up and RNG. This one's at 497. You have two thoughts here. At least I do. The thought is that, you get 4 RNG with this one. They probably are the highest scoring team on the slate. Up is right there. Maybe Damwon scores a lot against a GenG team that could potentially have 2 challengers level players on that team, or 3. Who knows? I mean, maybe Doran or Peanut get reinfected. It could happen. But I think that this gives you a little bit more upside. It gives you safety. It doesn't feel good. It's not sexy. I don't like it. I'm not running it in a winner take all. But when we're talking, just heads up, I think that's okay. And part of that is because I think that people might go to one of these 2 teams, and this is probably the series that I think is the closest, to an upset, where people will probably go. Now that I think about it, I mean, when we don't know about what GenG is going to be, I think that they're going to have some significantly low ownership. So, there is some value to playing Chovy or playing Ruler, and just understanding that you're dead if they're not playing and we don't have news. But I feel like most people will want to play DRX, and they're not going to look at Nongshim, and that Nongshim is not a sexy play. But Nongshim probably, I don't know, probably fits pretty well with RNG. They do. And I don't know if I play Ghost, or I don't know if I play Gal. I think you kind of play Ghost here. I think the point, though, is that Dread is outperforming. I mean, I think you can do one of these 2 lineups. That makes a ton of sense. Or maybe you do something like this, and you go like a Gala. Don't worry about BDD because he's garbage. Oh, you can't do that. So let's go with you can even do something like that. I think is a good lineup. Nobody going to play Nongshim or either team in DK. I mean, you could. So here's the thing. When we look at kind of how these teams have performed recently, and I know you can't see this one. Let's take a look. And I don't have this in any type of actual tangible order, but you can see this one series here. Ghost absolutely blew it up. We go over to. I just don't have a lot of them. That's the problem. These type of scores right here maybe are dealable. There's the other ones that they had. They had a couple. You had a series like this. So if they have a series like this, these guys are putting up enough points to be optimal. They just don't do it very frequently is the biggest problem that we have. DRX has obviously done it on a much more consistent basis, But like if you're looking for a dog, I think that that's my favorite dog, and I just wonder if we think that that's going to be the most popular dog, or do you think like maybe people go to TT? I mean, I've heard some buzz about it. Like, look, nobody's playing GenG against DM1. They don't project well. Nobody does against DM1. We don't know who's playing for them. And again, we have been left to assume that we're getting either like Ponytail Man, Quid, Ophelia, just a random group of people here that are going to be playing against DM1, or people aren't going to play LGD. I don't think it's the craziest thing in the world, or maybe some people will. But I think people are going to gravitate towards TT and towards Nongshim. Between those two, while TT is the smaller of the two dogs, man, people just don't like playing TT though, right? What's this? Classic letdown spot for RNG, but LGD is so bad that they will be optimal. Look, when you say something, it worries me. You called out DRX the other day. Not so much. You didn't take a state. Like, you didn't say, look, I'm playing DRX. This is going to be the team that upsets it. You just kind of mentioned, like, yo, what do you think DRX's ownership is going to be? Are they going to be owned more than this team or less? That's all you said. And then you slammed DRX. I think you've done that a couple other times. I don't know if you're trying to manifest something here. And if I see you playing some LGD in the 333, I'm on to you, is what I'm saying. I'm on to you. I know you're going to play some LGD in the 333, I think. I know it. And I don't think it's a classic letdown spot. LGD, like if they win, they're going to be optimal. The thing is, like, they're probably not a team that like is optimal over the course of 3 games if they lose 2 of them. We've seen that several times. It's not something that we can project. It's not something that we want to chase. And I can see RNG being a team that comes out and wins like 17-3 against LGD and just absolutely snowballs a couple fights. LGD can't kill anybody. The game is over pretty quickly. And, that happens, 2 straight games. RNG is just in take it serious mode. However, what we have seen is some teams kind of trolling the draft. And even Peter Dunn had kind of mentioned something about it just recently on Twitter. It's linked in the Discord. And, he talked about how EG has been allowing certain picks through so they can play against it on stage. And this is something that some teams are going to do, because when you're playing in scrims, you don't play the same type of, you don't play the entire game sometimes. Sometimes the game stops. Sometimes you restart. You don't get the same type of experience that you might in a live stage game. And so sometimes you let some of those picks go through. I think we saw that with EDG when they played LGD, but they were able to just absolutely stomp them in doing so. The question is, how much does RNG play with their food? Or are they a team that just, is ready to get to the playoffs and wants to take care of business? So that's a question right there. Every slate is a letdown spot for LGD. There's never been a come-up spot for LGD. Maybe this is it. Okay, all right. LGD aren't good. Yeah, I mean, look. Let's see. Is TT chalk? No, TT is not chalk. There is no chalk dog. Maybe they're the chalkiest dog, but they are not chalk. C. Babbitt is playing some GenG today. Yeah, I mean, I don't hate it. Are you playing a big stack, a little stack, a one-off? Like, what are you doing? I mean, you could probably get a little Dorn and Peanut in there. Maybe a little Captain Way, maybe Captain Hacker or something like that. I don't hate it. If we play these 2 teams, what do we got going on here? Well, yeah, that's going to give me that. But I wonder if that's the optimal. That's a good one. It's a good one. Let's see. Nice. Great conversation, guys. Awesome. I'm not going to put the last comment in there. Who's active for GenG? Doran, Peanut, and Lehens. That's all we know. So let's take a look at a couple different options that we have here. Guys, I will say that I've done a absolute terrible half-ass not given any effort in recruiting anybody for the show for this week or next week. I have a couple of people in mind I need to reach out, but if you or anybody you know wants to come on the Shark Cove, please, shoot me a DM. We'll work out some spots later this week or into next week as the season wraps up, and then we're going to have a little bit of an irregular schedule at that point. I'm not really sure what we're going to do in the playoffs or in the off season, but we're going to do something. I don't know what, something. So when we take a look at this, can we generate anything that has no? Let's see. Chobi out. I don't know about Ruler. Well, you just keep your ear to the Discord. Let us know. You'll be available next week. Yeah, I mean, next week is the season ends, man. Season ends. Yeah, I mean, maybe he's feeling better. We've seen that, though. So I wouldn't be surprised if Ruler's in. I don't know if that really changes anything for me. Like, if it's not Ruler and Chovy, like, I'm probably not excited. It sucks because this was a game or a series early in the year that was actually fantastic for DFS, and I don't think that there's any guarantee that this series would be the same way. I suspect that maybe this would be a really dull series from a DFS standpoint, high tension, lots of macro, but people are going to go to it. They're going to look at that previous series and they're going to play it. And I still think that people will. I just don't know if that's the right move. What happened to Kenzie? What do you mean what happened to Kenzie? He's still there, man. He's still around. He still posts stuff. So when we look at like up and DR, we put 3 of them in there. A lot of interesting 4-2-1s that you can do with these teams. If you're playing in the large GPP, if you're playing those high probability lineups for the Bink that you're not duping, which is we're playing suboptimal lineups to dupe for solo Bink probability at this point. That's the Discord meta. That's the Will way. That's the Nathan way. Some of these lineups kind of fit into that. The team one off is always a way to do that. Oh, nice little 4-2-1 right here. This is a cute one. I like that one actually, and that's almost something that you could play in a winner take all. You could play in a cash game. I can't tell you that this is the best spot for a head-to-head, but it certainly projects better than some of those support captains that we looked at. Let's see if we do something like this. How does this come out? What do we got here? Your 2-2-2-1 banking today? Probably not. You know that. So you can't combine these 3 teams. No shit. Oh, okay, I got you. I see what's going on. This is with Jungle Captain or higher. Yeah, I mean, look, I don't know what they're doing when we have these 4-game slates. They're being very restrictive in the pricing, and it forces you into some of the only plays that are optional because of the optimal nature of some of these games. I think when it comes to ownership, life finds a way. RNG, man, do we think RNG is going to be the highest owned? I think they probably will. I think people are going to play RNG TT. I think people are going to play RNG Red Force. I think that there's going to be a bunch of support captain lineups in the 3-3-3, at least 10. I can think of one guy who's probably going to run 3 of them. I think Up is right there with them. I mean, when we take a look at how both of these teams are priced, maybe Up is a little bit higher owned. Maybe that's what it is. Yeah, he sure did. Solo binked it. He solo binked it. So he's the defending champion. I'm the 2-back defending champion. I don't know who's going to win today. I hope it's me. Let's see. Let's take a look at what we got here. Interesting. There's the lineup, guys. If you want to copy it, go for it. Please. I'm going to leave it up for a longer period of time. Go ahead, copy that. There's a lot of free sites for that. Go ahead and learn it. All right, so yeah, I think Up and RNG are going to be your top two teams. In terms of like a sneaky stack, I don't think that there necessarily is one. As a result, man, I think RNG is going to be the highest owned. That's 100%. Up's going to come in there, but DRX is third, and maybe is in that same kind of stratosphere. Damwon is next. And then TT, Nongshim, LGD, GenG. I think that's the play. So let's write this down. We've got, I know you can't see this, that's RNG. Yeah, I wish I could make this bigger here. Yeah, this is not working. Okay. RNG, Up, DRX, Damwon. Nongshim, TT, LGD, GenG, or GenG, LGD. I think you can swap out either of those. GenG overall probably is the only reason I'm thinking that is because people aren't sure who's going to be playing. As a result, it's just going to lower their overall lineup. Yeah, no, for sure. They should be optimal. I know. I knew what you were saying. I was just talking about like the kind of situation that we run into, like Team WE. Just Nongshim a couple slates ago was optimal. I think in a loss, wasn't it? Or maybe they were winning. I don't know. I don't recall. But we've seen it several times. But so that's what I've got in terms of the cash game. To recap, the TLDR. If you fast forwarded to here, I think the two spots that I'd be looking at is RNG and Up with a support captain. I think you can do an Up Damwon DRX 4-2-1, whether that's team one off, a top one off, or something of that sort that does project a little bit better than several of the other support captains. Not necessarily as much as the Up RNG one, but close enough that I think it's okay if you're playing like winner take alls, but you want a super safe lineup. That's not the way to do it, but if that's what you want, that's what you want. In terms of GPPs, my call is I think I'm going to have one of these two teams in almost every lineup. I think one of these two teams ends up on the optimal. If not, it's one of these two teams. And do you know why that is? Because they're LCK teams. So it's another slate, another day. We play the LCK. We figure out which team's going to be the right one. We pair it with Up. We pair it with RNG. And we profit, baby. So let's see. Nobody playing Gen. People are going to play Nongshim. I'm playing Nongshim. I'm people. Disrespecting DRX, they deserve no respect. I think that's even what DRX stands for. Deserves respect. No, with the X. I don't know. Whatever. Look, hey, we'll be back tomorrow. Again, if you know anybody or you want to be on the show, let me know. We'll talk about it. We'll figure out a date. We'll figure out a time. We've got another 4-game slate. We've got a couple 5-game slates, and then we are going into the last week of the season. We do have some LCS to talk about this weekend. We do have playoffs in other leagues. So, we can talk about that. And on the horizon, not too far away, the tournament that I know that you're excited for, I'm excited for, EU Masters qualifications are starting. Teams are starting to fill into those slots. So we'll have quite a few shows covering that. Maybe a couple articles maybe I'll put up on like Dr. Roto or something like that kind of highlights some of the teams so we can get familiar with the people that we're playing. But yeah, let's see. Yeah. Run through these real quick. Boom, boom, boom. I think DK will be owned cheap fave against an unknown GenG lineup. Yeah, my only thought with that is that the only team that you're really pairing them with, I don't think you can pair them with. Yeah, I guess they'll be owned. You're right. I'm going to put them above DRX. Let's do that. Let's put them as the third highest. Up in RNG are going to be owned more than Damwon. We'll put Damwon at 3, DRX at 4, and we'll take it from there. But all right, cool. No, DRX doesn't have any COVID issues. Nobody else has any COVID issues that we know about. It's just Gen G at this point. So, all right, guys. I will talk to you tomorrow. I'll see you then. I'll be on the Discord, and we'll be sweating the games out later today.